colleagues, it's good that you have created this time as the youth constituents. And also from the opening remarks, I could also pick that the interest is not about just your constituents, but it's to make sure that the bill and specifically the fund is all inclusive. So it's about inclusivity. But we are saying as leaders of tomorrow, we have to then provide the leadership in terms of the finalization of this bill. But your interest is not just around the youths, but it's around all the special interest groups. So as I start, distinguished guests, representatives of the youth organizations, here present, civil society partners, colleagues, and I would want to call many of you boys and girls. It is my great honor to stand before you today on behalf of the Minister of Environment, Climate and Wildlife to officially open this important engagement, the National Climate Fund's Youth Dialogue. I'm quite impressed that you have not spread your efforts, but you have said, let's actually fish out the heart of this bill and the hammer on the heart. Once we address issues around the fund, we would have addressed all the other sections of the bill. So we also want to commend you for that. Zimbabwe, like many nations, boys and girls that we have across the globe, it is increasingly experiencing the adverse impacts of climate change. Rising temperatures, erratic rainfall patterns, prolonged droughts, and extreme weather events are no longer distant threats. They are now part of our lived reality. These impacts continue to undermine food security, water availability, biodiversity, our infrastructure, our livelihoods, and particularly livelihoods for vulnerable communities. It is against this backdrop that the government of Zimbabwe, through the Ministry of Environment, Climate and Wildlife, took a decisive step to strengthen the national climate governance framework through the formulation of the Climate Change Management Bill. In 2023, you might also remember that Cabinet adopted key principles to guide the development of the Climate Change Management Bill. I hope you are still remembering, boys and girls. These principles provided a comprehensive framework for addressing climate change through mitigation and adaptation actions, while also promoting sustainable development grounded in equity, grounded in justice, and also grounded in the precautionary principle. The bill therefore seeks to ensure that climate change is fully mainstreamed into national development planning and budgeting processes across all sectors and levels of government, and that environmental and social considerations are integrated into decision-making processes, such as impact assessments and also spatial planning. The bill that is before us also establishes systems for measurement, reporting, and verification of greenhouse gas emissions in line with international obligations, including also provisions for data sharing and also accountability. Furthermore, the bill provides for the establishment of key institutional mechanisms, including a designated national authority to oversee carbon markets, as well as a framework to guide participation in carbon markets with clear provisions for community benefit sharing. Most importantly, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, the bill provides for the establishment of the National Climate Fund as a dedicated financing mechanism for government and also for the ministry, including the climate change management family, to mobilize and manage resources from diverse sources, including treasury, including carbon markets, including private sector, and also international climate finance to support our climate action. The bill also introduces greenhouse gas emission standards and compliance measures which shall support the establishment of a national emission trading system while ensuring that gender considerations are fully integrated in climate change planning, in policy formulation, and also in climate change action. Following the adoption of these principles in 2023, the Climate Change Management Department, working closely with the Attorney General's Office, embarked on an extensive and highly consultative process to develop the bill. Consultations were conducted across all the 10 provinces of the country, ensuring that diverse regional perspectives are captured. And I'm happy that a sizable number of us seated in this room were part of this multi-stakeholder consultative process to develop the climate change management bill that we are meeting today to reflect on its proposed climate change fund. A wide range of stakeholders, including government institutions, civil society organizations, the private sector, our traditional leadership, development partners, and the youth constituents were engaged across all the 10 provinces. Importantly, the youth constituents was deliberately reached out to and actively participated in these consultations as we were moving from one province to the other, recognizing the critical role that young people play in shaping both present and future climate action. So that is the only reason why we wanted to make sure that our youth constituents is equally reached out to during the consultative process, and this is the reason why when we then called for this dialogue, we said we cannot afford to miss this dialogue. It's because you are the leaders today. You are already showing leadership qualities. You are also the leaders of tomorrow. The process then moved to the drafting stage, undertaken in collaboration with the Attorney General's Office. This was followed by a multi-stakeholder review and validation process to ensure that the bill reflects national priorities and incorporates stakeholder inputs. And I'm also happy to say the validation workshop was actually convened in this same hotel in 2025. And I think there are quite a number of faces, familiar faces, that are in this room, and we're also part of that validation meeting. In 2025, the bill was also gazetted by Parliament, paving the way for parliamentary processes. The Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Environment, Climate and Wildlife subsequently conducted inclusive public consultations across various parts of the country, once again capturing the views of citizens from all constituencies, including the youth. Maybe again by showing by raising our hands how many of us were managed to be part of the public consultations that were conducted by Parliament in the last quarter of 2025. I think it was in December and also in January. How many of us managed to meet with Parliament? I see one. I see two. Okay, I think I see three. That's good. So it basically shows that the youth constituency has always been there, tracking and following closely on the development process with this bill. These engagements, that is the engagements by the Portfolio Committee on Environment, Climate and Wildlife, resulted in a consolidated report highlighting key issues and recommendations for reconsideration by the drafting team. The bill is now before the National Assembly and has undergone the first and second readings, which have given rise to robust and constructive debate among honorable members. The key issues emerging from these debates are concurrently under consideration by both the Attorney General's Office and also the Minister of Environment, Climate and Wildlife. This process will culminate in the Honorable Minister filing a notice of amendments with the National Assembly, which is anticipated any time this coming May. It is our expectation that the bill will be ascended to and become law before the end of this year. Boys and girls, this dialogue is therefore taking place at a very opportune time as the Ministry reflects on stakeholder inputs and prepares for the final stages of this legislative process. The discussions and outcomes from this dialogue, particularly the critical analysis and recommendations likely to emerge today, will provide valuable input into the finalization of the National Climate Fund component of the Climate Change Management Bill. You, the young people, constitute the majority of Zimbabwe's population, and are among those most affected by climate change. At the same time, you are key innovators, you are leaders in your own right, and you are also agents of change. Your meaningful participation in climate change governance processes, including in the structuring and operationalization of the Climate Fund, is essential for ensuring that the systems we establish are inclusive, the systems that we establish are responsive, and the systems that we establish are reflective of the realities on the ground. So as you get into the process of reflecting on the Climate Fund, in the back of your mind, remember that issues that are captured in there are the issues. I heard you talking of elite capture. There's nothing like elite capture. Whatever development trajectory a government takes, I'm not talking of the government of Zimbabwe, but I'm talking of a government takes, should be led by the youth. The moment you fail to play your role, that's when you see yourself crying foul of elite capture. Because if you leave that space void, then we are always there to occupy the gap. So there's nothing like elite capture. This process, this step that you have taken today is basically to demonstrate that you are the leaders and you are in the driving seat. Allow me, therefore, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to reaffirm government's commitment to building a climate finance architecture that is transparent, a climate finance architecture that is accountable, and also a climate finance architecture that is inclusive. I encourage you all to engage actively, to share your perspectives openly, and also to contribute constructively to the discussions over the course of the dialogue. Your voice matters, and your contribution will help shape a stronger and more effective National Climate Fund for Zimbabwe. With these remarks, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it is my honor and privilege to officially declare the National Climate Fund Youth Dialogue under the Climate Change Bill officially opened. I thank you.